Hello, everybody. Joe the Jet G here, and today I'm going to be talking about how the Jets stack up against the rest of the AFC East as of right now. Free agency is kind of done. The draft is over. Sort of all the major off-season moves are kind of been here, done that. Now it's on to rookie mini camp, then training camp, and then preseason, and then you know, um, and then you know. go on, so on, the cycle continues. So, how do the Jets rank in the echelon of the rest of the AFC East? The New England Patriots, the Bills, the Dolphins. So, I think that the New England Patriots are going to take a step back. And the New England Patriots are a team that was the AFC East champs that ended up winning the AFC, being the AFC representative in the Super Bowl last year, even though they got their asses kicked in uh, last year's Super Bowl. It's just, they got there. And all I got to say is this: look, people can bring up the schedule all they want, but they they got through the schedule and they found ways to get to the Super Bowl. That's something you got to give credit where credit is due. But I do have to admit, they had probably one of the easiest roads to a Super Bowl I have ever seen a team make. And it's on their shoulders to prove all of us wrong, honestly. And I hope to God they don't. I hope to God they don't. I hope we're proven right. And I do see them taking a step back. I don't think it's going to be as drastic as what people are saying that, they're going to end up winning 3 games or 4 games and all that other stuff and being, a last place team because they're playing a first place schedule. I don't think it's going to be as drastic as what people are saying, but I do think it's going to be a step back, and I do think they're going to be second place in the division because of that. I do think the division champions are going to be the Buffalo Bills, strictly because Josh Allen is really freaking good at football. This guy is just incredible, and look, you're going to have to take a lot in order to beat this guy, week in and week out. You take God forbid, the only way I see the Bills falling off a cliff is two reasons. Two reasons. First reason is, God forbid, knock on wood, please don't let this happen. Josh Allen ends up getting injured. And just like that, if he gets hurt, it's bad for the NFL. It's bad for everyone in the league. You don't want to see superstars getting hurt. And plus, let's be honest, I remember 2016. A lot of superstars got hurt that year. It was probably one of the more miserable, I mean, not miserable, but it was probably the most boring year when it comes to superstar names when it comes to the NFL. I remember there was, guys like Rodgers getting hurt, Le'Veon Bell getting hurt, all these other players in 2016 that just got hurt and just got injured, and you're just like, I just wish, that player didn't get hurt. I hope to God Josh Allen's fully healthy this season, and you know we get to see his talents and we can possibly beat him. That's what I think. Um, but another reason why I think the Bills could fall off, but I don't see it, um, is you know the talent around Josh Allen and the coaching. Because remember, Sean McDermott got fired, and the way he got fired was very, very weird. Um, they fired him, and then they promoted the general manager to president of football operations. I mean, that was probably one of the weirder um, things that happened this offseason, and the way the owner spoke, like, the Bills, they lost to the Broncos, people remember, and, you know, they fired McDermott after that loss. But then the owner comes out and says, like, "Oh, we got robbed. You know, that should have been a catch, instead of an interception in Denver." Like, it was so weird how that owner for Buffalo was just talking like, "Oh, we got robbed. We deserve to win that game, and yet you respond by firing the head coach. It was just very, very weird. And the guy that he hired is Joe Brady. Now, is Joe Brady a good head coach? I mean, that's the only question mark to when it comes to the Bills right now. Is he a good head coach? Does he know how to manage the clock? Does he know how to do all these other things? I know he can call good offensive play calls. We all know this. But is he a good head coach? That is something that needs to be sort of looked at throughout this season. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see if if that ends up being a no. I can definitely see the Bills falling off a little bit. Um, and this is where we rank, I think. Number 3. I think we're the third best team in the AFC East. Call me crazy. I know a lot of people are like, what? What are you talking about? We have Geno Smith at quarterback. But if you look at our offense, look, I've said it once before in one of my videos in the past. Geno can ball. If you give him an offense that can play, and you give him a lot of weapons at his disposal, a good offensive line, he's one of those quarterbacks that you need everything to click in order for him to be successful. And you look at Seattle, you know, they had a very good offensive line. They had DK Metcalf. They had JSN. They had Tyler Lockett. They had good, players. They had Noah Fant. You know, they had Kenneth Walker. I mean, they had good players. Now, you know, were they breaking the league? Were they winning 12 games a year? No, they were winning like at most 8 to 9 games the 3 years Gino was there. But that's good enough. I mean, that's a valuable improvement to, let's just say, like, if I were to tell you that this team offensively will be decent and this team will win 7 or 8 games. Honestly, I don't know if everyone's going to sign up for that because everyone wants the quarterback next year. Everyone wants to tank for their quarterback. But there would be some Jet fans that would be all for it. That would be all into that. But honestly, I don't think the Jets are that bad this year. I don't think they're going to be that terrible to the point. I don't think they're going to win 8 games. Don't get me wrong. I think at most they'll win 6. Honestly, at most. But I do think they're going to be decent enough that, they're going to be the third place team in this division. And I do think Geno can ball. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know Geno Smith, last year, he stunk. And there's a chance he'll do stupid things this season. He'll take dumb sacks. He'll throw really bad interceptions here and there. But don't get me wrong. Look, it's not like Seattle was a mirage. It wasn't. It happened, and he had 3 productive years in Seattle. For the main reason is, like I told you, he had great wide receivers, he had a great offensive line, he had a great running back behind him. And look at what we are right now with the Jets. You know, the offensive line is kind of finished. The wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, we all know what he is. We all know how great he is. Garrett Wilson, Kenyon Siddiqui, he's, you know, he's projected to be a very good tight end at the next level. Brees, he's great. We all know that. Um, Omar Cooper, we'll see how he can be. If these guys are as good as where we drafted them, we could be witnessing a very, very fun offense for once. Is the defense still kind of a fixer-upper? I kind of do see that as well. I do see the Jets defense still being a little bit of you know, a wait and see type of rebuild. That's where I think the rebuild kind of lies right now, is improving the defense. Because let me tell you something, last year's Jets defense was historically awful. But we did bring in some guys that can intercept the ball, that can get pressure. Is it going to be good right away? No, I don't think so. I think if we are going to lose games, I think the main culprit of us losing those games is going to be the defense, honestly. Um, or it's going to be Geno Smith making a dumb play. One of the two things, which is why I think that they're going to win at max 6 games when they should have won, where they might should win 8, but they might win 6 because of, again, Geno Smith making a bad play, or the defense not stopping the offense when it comes to crunch time, as usual. So, as of usual from last year. And of course, the team I think is the worst team in the division. I personally think it is the Miami Dolphins. Look, you look at that roster, you look at the quarterback, it is very similar to what the Jets were last year. When it comes to the Miami Dolphins, it is very similar. They they don't have a lot of wide receivers. In fact, they got rid of all of them. They traded Jalen Waddle to Denver. Um, I think their best wide receiver is Malik Washington. I don't know. I mean, they don't have a lot of wide receivers that are worth you know thinking about and being like, whoa, wait a minute, this is a guy that you can possibly think about like, oh, being a superstar. No, you don't really think about that. The only player on offense for Miami that you can sort of remember by name is, of course, Malik Willis because of the bag they gave him, and Devon Achan. That's about it. And honestly, I just look, the only way I see Miami shocking a lot of people is if Malik Willis is a superstar quarterback. And I just doubt it because, like, honestly, he played good 3 good games last year with the Packers. 3 good games. But that's not a lot. That's not a big sample size to give a quarterback that big of a bag. I'm sorry, it's just not. It's very similar to how what the Jets did, when they signed Justin Fields from the Steelers. When Justin Fields had a pretty good stint with the Steelers, the Jets signed him to a big deal, and they expected him to be, this superstar that hasn't been coached correctly, and it was just a mess. And I feel like with the Dolphins, it's going to be very similar to what the Jets were last year, where they're just a bad team. They're just not good. Like I look on paper, they're not good. What is Jeff Halfley as a head coach? I don't know. I just I don't know. I think the Dolphins are clearly one of the worst rosters in the NFL. Um, you know, we, I know a lot of people are going to be thinking that and being like, "Oh God, they're going to get Arch Manning." Look, even if they do get Arch Manning and they do tank and they do fall off a cliff and they get the best quarterback available for next year, look, I think Miami needs a lot of rebuilding and a lot of tooling to support that quarterback to start to being competitive. So basically, being like a good two more years, maybe 3 more years to build up that roster. And this is like they're completely tearing all the floorboards up down there in Miami, completely tearing it up. Well, the Jets is starting to feel like they're actually starting to build something. The Dolphins are starting to be in like at that tear up phase where they're trading players, they're getting rid of players, they're getting rid of cap hits. They're trying to save money. It's just like you can clearly see they are one of the worst football teams in the NFL, and they're going to be one of the worst football teams in the NFL. Now, am I going to say the Jets are going to sweep them? No, no, they're probably going to lose one of those games to them. So, I mean, it's just how it goes with the Jets. But yeah, I do think the Jets, as they stack up in the division, I think they are the third best team. I think if you ask some person in the street about the AFC East, they probably tell you the same thing. The Jets are the third best team in that division, and the Dolphins are clearly one of the worst. Or, they might tell you the opposite. The Jets are the worst team in the division, but then again, they're not really looking at the rosters. Dolphins are clearly one of the worst rosters in the NFL on paper. Jets are kind of improved, but they're still not great yet. They're still not good yet. And Bills and the Patriots are clearly the two favorites right now, and it's probably going to remain that way come September. So, look, um, if you guys disagree with me at all, please leave a comment. Call me stupid. Do all this stuff. I honestly, it's perfectly fine. Anything that starts some engagement. Um, you know, agree with me. Say that I'm, you know, correct or you like my content or something like that. Any comment I think is very welcomed. And be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and yeah, be sure to hit that bell on the bottom as well to watch more of my videos. And yeah, thank you very much, and have a good one. Go Jets.